The first day of NBA free agency is almost over. It is 8 p.m. as I am recording this video. Hopefully, nothing crazy happens right after I upload this. Like, we just got the Monte Morris trade literally right as I was going to hit record. So, hopefully, nothing happens after I get done recording. That involves the Kings, of course. Other teams can do their small deals like a Monte Morris deal, but hopefully the Kings hold off until tomorrow. The Kings didn't make too many moves today, but they did make a couple. They weren't going full Phoenix Suns and signing 5 different guys all right away, but they did make a couple moves, and they still have a lot of options going forward as to what they can do to fill out the roster. So let's talk about the 2 moves first that they actually made. And one of them was before free agency started, and that was the trade for Chris Duarte from the Indiana Pacers. He is a third-year guard. He is 6'6", so a shooting guard, could play the 3 in small ball lineups. The Kings are sending back draft compensation. We don't know exactly what they are sending. I assume it's just going to be a couple seconds. Maybe the deal could get wrapped into the Richaun Holmes deal somehow, or a 3-teamer in some other way. I could see that happening. But looking at Chris Duarte, he had a pretty good rookie season. You might know him from his really hot start to his rookie season. He was shooting from 3 extremely well. He ended up shooting 39% from 3 his rookie season. This past season, though, wasn't as kind to him. He kind of lost his spot. He started 12 games for the Pacers, only played in 46 because of injury, but the Pacers got guys like Benedict Mathurin and Andrew Nembhard to round out their guard rotation, and obviously they have Halliburton and Hield, as well as some other guys, so he kind of, fell out of the rotation there. Didn't shoot as well from 3 this past season, only 31%, but he is a solid defender. 6'6", that's a good size for a shooting guard. And I think this is really just a good depth buy low kind of situation for Monte McNair. He could play his way into the rotation, and if he doesn't, then kind of is what it is. You didn't give up much. At least we're assuming they didn't give up much. There's no way they gave up anything but a few seconds. I think this really is a Terrence Davis replacement. He is a little taller than Terrence Davis, not as volatile, probably just a more stable defender. Terrence Davis is just kind of craziness whenever he's on the court, right? So just looking for more stability off the bench here is, I think, what we're doing. I think Chris Duarte is like the perfect Monte McNair type of guy. He was an older rookie. He's 26 going into his 3rd year. So there is a team option for the next year. This ate into our cap space a little bit. I think he had a 4.1 mil for this season, but I really liked this buy low kind of deal for him. I think he can be a solid rotational player in the NBA, give us that 3-and-D presence off the bench. And then the one signing we made in free agency was bringing back Trey Lyles on pretty much the exact deal that I thought he was going to get. And I do think it is the perfect deal. It's 2 years, $16 million. So $8 million a year. I think that's perfect for a guy like Trey Lyles. Super productive off the bench. He gives us that versatility as either a 4 or a small ball 5, gives you the 3-point shooting, gives you the ability to attack on closeouts, and a solid defender, good team defender. We know he's a good rebounder, especially an offensive rebounder. He gave so much to us last season, was a top 7, 8 guy on this team. And so I think getting him for 8 mil, that's a really good deal, especially since the deal is using his early bird rights. And that just means the max you can raise his salary is 105%. And so by doing that, using his early bird rights, it means that his salary does not eat into the cap space that we have. So I'm very happy that Trey Lyles is back. I've said he was one of my favorite players on this team from this past season. So those were the two moves we made today. We still have 13.5 million in cap space plus the room exception, and that is if we do operate under the cap. So it is confusing, but we either operate as a team under the cap or over the cap. So pretty much we could still act either way. And the way we would get over the cap without acting as a team under the cap is by renegotiating and extending Sabonis. That's the obvious way to get there that I see. And so what that would mean is then anybody who we re-sign or not re-sign, sorry, sign, we would be acting over the cap. So we could use the mid-level exception, which is 12 mil a year, or the biannual exception, which is 4.5 mil a year. And those would be the two ways that we would fill out our roster. But acting under the cap, if we don't do that and we just sign people right now out of free agency, we have that 13.5 million plus the room exception, which I believe is 2 years, 15.5 million. And so looking forward to what the Kings are going to do from here in free agency, we have Sasha Vezenkov, who could still come over. We didn't get that signing today, but that definitely doesn't mean it isn't happening, especially since when free agency started, it was like midnight or later in Greece or Bulgaria, wherever he is right now. So that could be a reason why it didn't get done, or it's just not happening. I don't know, but Vezenkov could go into the room exception that we have. So give him 7 mil a year or whatever it is, or it'd be over that, a little over 7 mil a year. And then if we do sign him, I think there's two obvious holes in the roster from there. And well, the main one being the backup center spot. And so first I'll just touch on Chimezie Metu signed a deal with the Phoenix Suns, so he is gone. And I think that was pretty obvious. He was not coming back to this team. He just didn't really fit. You know, not many of our centers did. And so that's why, we were trying to play him last season and he gave us a lot of good minutes off the bench, but we just have to go a different way at the center spot next season. I think that was pretty obvious. And then, like I said, Terrence Davis is probably gone. We'll see what we do with PJ Dozier because we have until July 10th to guarantee his deal. And so what do we do with the rest of our cap that we have? That backup center spot is the obvious one. We have been linked to Mason Plumlee and Christian Wood. I really do like Mason Plumlee. He is older at 33 years old, but he's just a really solid player. He can pass the ball, which I think is a key for a center in our offense. And then he can't space the floor. So that is one issue, but he's a good rebounder, solid defender, set solid screens. So I think he's just like Alex Len. Maybe he's not as big as Alex Len. He's not as much of a shot blocker as Alex Len is, but he's just more sound offensively, better with the ball in his hands, can whip out some crazy handles every once in a while and make some guy fall. But I would probably lean towards him, maybe give him a 7 mil a year, 2-year deal or something like that. Christian Wood, I'm a little more skeptical on. He would space the floor, be a better offensive option. He's a scorer more, but he's just not a good defensive player. I do wonder what his value is. Maybe we could pick him up on a pretty cheap deal because his value just might not be high to teams right now. So I think it would be a good move to get him if we could get him on a really cheap deal, because I think he has a lot of upside. But I think if we're signing him as a guy that has to play and has to be that backup center, we might be disappointed. And so I would rather go with a safer option. We could always bring Alex Len back as well. So that's an option. And then Jock Landale is an interesting option because the Phoenix Suns, I believe they made him a qualifying offer. but then they rescinded it and went and signed Drew Eubanks, which is someone I wanted the Kings to get. But the Suns did a lot. They got Keita Bates-Diop, another guy who I would have liked on the Kings. But obviously, guys want to go to the Suns because they have all that star power, and there's a lot of uh, room for guys to get playing minutes. So that makes sense. Like Josh Okogie as well, another guy who I would have loved on the Kings, but obviously Phoenix right now is a prime landing spot for a lot of free agents, so they're an attractive destination. But maybe we pick up their scraps and go get Jock Landale. He doesn't have the vertical ability that maybe we would like in a backup center, but I don't you're not going to have a problem with him like against a Kevon Looney like we had in the playoffs. Like he is very strong and a very good rebounder. And I just think that's the key to our backup center. Just a guy that can rebound and go set screens and be at least somewhat of a rim protector. Then the other spot we probably need to fill out is a third string point guard. There aren't too many names that I can think of right now that we could sign, and I'm sure we'll just get someone maybe a little random like Matthew Dellavedova last year, but Io DeSumo could be a guy that we get. He's still a free agent. Could be an interesting guy to go get. Take a chance on a younger guy who maybe still has upside. I knew it probably wasn't going to happen, but I was really hoping we could get Javon Carter. Uh, that would probably be more of a signing that we would go after if we traded like Davion in a deal or something because they're similar. But he went to the Bulls. So then that's why I'm saying go get Ayo Dosunmu, get the guy that Javon Carter replaced in Chicago. Grant Williams is still out there, so that's an option for a wing, I guess. But he is a restricted free agent. It seems like he's getting pushed out of Boston, but I just don't know if we have the money to go get him. But if we can, definitely we should do that. I was hoping we go get some wing depth and a guy like Taurean Prince. I talked about that, but he went to the Lakers on, I believe, what is the biannual exception, which is 4.5 mil for 1 year. I think that's a really good pickup for the Lakers. I was really hoping that we could go get Taurean Prince because we do probably need to add like one more better defender on the wing, maybe a bigger guy. There's always the possibility for trades. Uh, there was, a lot of deals at the start of free agency, and then the Rockets weren't doing anything. And then finally that domino fell, and it was Fred VanVleet, 3 years, 120 million, which is an insane deal for Fred VanVleet. But right there, I'm hoping like maybe the Raptors try to blow it up now, or at least, sell some of their pieces. So maybe a guy like OG Anunoby becomes available because Masai Ujiri now sees we can lose these guys for nothing and we want to get something for them in a trade. So does that open up a OG Anunoby or a Pascal Siakam? If we do tie something into the Rashawn Holmes deal, I saw something that said we could take on 19 million in salary, which would be perfect for an OG Anunoby, just saying. And I think also if we act over the cap, we can use a trade exception from the Rashawn Holmes deal. So that's what we are looking forward to now in free agency. But now I want to look back a little. And I want to look back at that Harrison Barnes deal, which I said people were overreacting to. And now everyone's like, okay, it's actually a good deal at 3 years, $18 million average per year. So let's look at some of the other comparable numbers that guys got. You have Draymond Green getting 4 years, 100 mil, which is exactly what I said, by the way, he would get with the Warriors. We have Chris Middleton getting 3 years, 102 mil. So the Kings were, glad we didn't go after him. That's too much. Then a pretty crazy deal for me. Other people are not seeing it as that crazy. Like maybe people see it as a slight overpay, but I think this is crazy. 4 years, 108 million for Cam Johnson. I think a lot of people think he's younger than he is. He's 27. He's going to be 28 during next season. $27 million a year for a guy who's just a 3 and D guy at this point. I guess they're hoping he can develop into something else. Like, he's a great player, don't get me wrong, but he's a great role player. I don't really see him as more than that. So 27 million over 4 years is kind of crazy to me. Then you have Kuzma getting the 4-year 102 mil, so less than Cam Johnson, which is why it's kind of crazy that Cam got that money. But Kuzma taking 25.5 mil per year. That's a deal I would have done if I were the Kings. Uh, and I think I see a lot of people saying that, but then they're saying like, why didn't the Kings do that? It's like, that's not how it works. It has to go both ways. And from all accounts, it seems like Kuzma just wanted a bigger role on a team and didn't want to be the fourth or fifth option on a team. And so he stays with Washington. Then you got the worst deal of the day, in my opinion, which is 5 years, 160 mil for Jeremy Grant to go back to the Blazers. Jeremy Grant is not a young guy, so 5 years is a lot of years. You know, it's not taking him until he's super old, but it takes him until he's 34. And at 32 million a year, that makes the Barnes deal look like an absolute steal. I have no idea what the Blazers are doing right now. No one does. They should have just probably blown it up and gone young with Shaden Sharp and Scoot Henderson, but I'm just glad the Kings didn't give Jeremy Grant that deal. And then you look at the Bruce Brown deal, which is a lot of money, 2 years, 45 mil, but it does have a team option, but he's getting paid more than Harrison Barnes. Pacers had a lot of cap to spend, so it's not like it's a crazy deal for them, but just Bruce Brown getting that money is a lot for him. And then Rui, 3 years, 51 mil, so slightly under what Barnes got for Rui Hachimura going back to the Lakers. So Harrison Barnes making a lot less than a lot of those guys that I just listed. And, you know, he's not one of the better guys on that list, but I think it just shows that the value that we got for him was solid. And then the last thing I wanted to address was I've just seen a lot of people saying the West keeps getting better and the Kings just kind of are still running it back. And I just wanted to address that. So I'm going to go through every team pretty much. Denver Nuggets got worse. They lost Bruce Brown. Not saying they're bad or worse than us. They're the champs, but losing Bruce Brown is, you know, he's a key player for them. The Grizzlies, they got Marcus Smart. I don't really see any movement from them. The Suns are the Suns. I mean, I think they got better, but I don't know. It's an experiment going on in Phoenix, so I can't even analyze that. I think they got a lot of good players though today. The Clippers, it's wait and see for them, but they haven't really done anything. They're waiting for the James Harden trade. The Warriors, I think they're getting worse. They're getting older. They got Chris Paul now. I don't see that really working. I think they got worse than last season. The Lakers, I like their signings that they made, but it's just all about, I mean, LeBron's 1 year older. That's always the case. And AD's 1 year older and injury prone. So, yes, I would say they got better, I guess. But if LeBron gets worse, then maybe not. So, the Timberwolves didn't really get any better. You know, and then you just look at the rest of the team and it's like the Thunder, sure, they'll get better. They're a young team. Pelicans, if they're healthy. Mavericks, re-sign Kyrie. And then just a lot of young teams plus Portland that will get better, but we're not too concerned about. So I just think people like us running it back, it's not like all the other teams in the West are making crazy moves to get way better. That's just not really the case. And we still have moves to be made. Anyways, that is it for this episode of the Royal Report. I will be back whenever the Kings make another move to talk about that. But until then, I will see you guys later. Peace.